What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So last night, we had a system update for the Switch. It jumped up to 10.0.0, and I was kind of expecting something much different than what we got. In fact, Nintendo, I think, blindsided almost everybody as to what they did add to the Switch here. And you know what? It's actually really cool. It's interesting that Nintendo would have done this, so we're gonna go over that here today and what you can expect if you haven't turned on your Switch in the last 24 hours to see. And then we're also gonna talk a little bit about Crysis, which is something that really hasn't come up much recently. I mean, their Twitter account hasn't even put anything out for the last 4 years. At least until yesterday, because it looks like something is happening with the Crysis franchise, and it has a lot of us really excited. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button down below, and if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button. And we're gonna start today with the eShop sales for the spring sales. We talked about this quite a bit, and it's strange because publishers will just randomly add stuff to it. Like, they'll jump in and say, oh, now we're part of this spring sale. And Bandai did that yesterday, and they have some pretty good stuff added in. And Bandai will usually roll in with some of their JRPGs, and they'll have Dragon Ball games, Naruto games. But let's take a quick look at what they have offered here with Dragon Ball FighterZ, which always seems to be on sale whenever they do these things at $15. And if you've been holding off, it's not a bad one to pick up. But then they have Digimon's Story Cyber Sleuth, which at $30, there's a lot of value there. If you're looking for any other JRPGs, you also have Tales of Vesperia at $20, which is a very good deal, I would say. And then Ni no Kuni at $30, another good one to pick up. If you want to pick up just a strange one or something weird that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, I mean, Katamari Damacy Reroll at $9.89, which is an interesting sale number there. That is one I would check out. It's different, it's interesting, and if you hadn't played Katamari back on like the PS2 or something, might be worth checking out just to see what you think of it. But Bandai has quite a bit here, and it runs till right at the end of the month, I believe the 27th, so might be worth signing in to see what they have. Also, it looks like Limited Run Games is going to have a run of physical copies for Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast. And you know what? I was looking at these and I said, oh, of course, I already picked these up digitally, and that's always how this works out, right? But they look pretty good. In fact, you can get a double pack where it comes with like a slip cover, and they have some special edition ones, but let's check a few of those out here. And these will go on pre-order April 24th at 10 a.m. Eastern, and the way it works, usually you want to be there right away so you can get your pre-order in before they sell out or any of that. And they also have like these big limited edition ones that are a bit more expensive, but come with all kinds of cool stuff. And as a fan of the Jedi Knight series, I gotta say, I am really thinking about it. I did pick up the Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight special edition stuff that they had put out previously. That's on the PC, and I'm waiting for that to show up, but I'll be checking that out. Maybe we'll even do an unboxing. That's just a game that I grew up with, and I remember really liking. Hasn't aged well at all, but these a bit better. Jedi Academy certainly much more so than Outcast, but I still like them both. And honestly, the double pack might be what I grab with the slip cover, because it looks pretty good. Just look forward to that towards the end of the month on April 24th. Oh, and we had talked previously about that Resident Evil 4 remake rumor. People were curious, why would they do that? It doesn't need it. And I said, well, money. Capcom is seeing these remakes sell very well. In fact, they put some numbers out. Resident Evil 3, which keep in mind is a mature rated horror game, those don't typically sell crazy numbers. This one did. Resident Evil 3 has already sold 2 million copies in 5 days. In fact, Resident Evil 2 has already crossed 6.5 million copies. For Capcom, they've got to be really excited, because if they can pull off Resident Evil 4, and there are more rumors starting to come out that they are going to be taking this one seriously with possibly a 4-year development cycle, bringing in parts of development teams for Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 2 along with M2 to get this thing done. And hopefully that means they are going to put a lot of time and effort into it, because this could be the big one for them, right? People want Code Veronica, that could still happen, but like Resident Evil 4 could be their 10 million unit seller for the Resident Evil remake so far, and it sounds like they're gonna be putting the work in, but yes, that's why. Money, these remakes keep selling, and they keep releasing numbers that show that. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with this system update for the Switch. It is now on 10.0.0. If you have not updated, go ahead, jump on your Switch. Took a few minutes for me to have it updated completely, and then I started checking out some of the things from their patch notes, which their patch notes are pretty straightforward, but it really doesn't convey the extensiveness of one of the big features they've added here, which is like full-on remappable buttons now. Yeah, like, it's really strange to think about that just popping up randomly on a big system update, but it has. In fact, if you go into your controller settings now, it's in like the system settings, so on the controllers, you can just start changing buttons around completely. They have like a full menu set up, and you can move everything around. Like when I say everything, I was surprised that you could even take like the clickable sticks like that and have like A be what happens when you press in the left stick on the analog. I was shocked, and it looks like Nintendo is going even further to where you can take individual Joy-Cons and change the button configuration there as well, which also includes SL and SR. This is pretty big for accessibility, of course, for people who want to move things around. I mean, consider if you're used to going from like the Xbox and the PlayStation controller, then you jump over to like the Switch, the Joy-Con, or the Pro controller, and you want like A and B to be swapped. You can do that really easily now. Takes a couple seconds and you're off and running, and then confirm is in all of the same spots, we'll say, on all of your platforms then. They even went as far as to give you the ability to change the left stick and the right stick functionality. So like your right stick would become your left stick and vice versa, which is, again, strange, but you can do it. That's really, really neat. Now you're also able to save up to 5 different configurations per controller, and the Switch Lite is also customizable, so you can play around with those buttons as well. What a neat idea and feature. Sure, it's not folders. That's what everyone wants. Everyone was like, hey, Nintendo, can we get folders for this system because our home screen looks insane right now? And they say, well, how about we give you the ability to have your camera be on the left stick? How about that? Yeah. All right, sure, I guess. Now, another part of this update is that you can now take games that are installed to the internal memory on your Switch and then transfer them over locally to your SD card. So let's say you're someone who picked up a Switch, but you didn't get an SD card immediately, but you downloaded a game to your Switch's internal storage, like the 26 gigabytes after it partitions for the system. You can easily move it rather than have to, what we do before, delete it completely and then download it again onto your SD card as the target location. It's a nice quality of life feature. However, it does not include any update data, so you have to re-download any of that. And it also does not include saved games, which is what everyone wants to be able to do, back up your saved games locally. But they're getting there, I guess. They're getting closer, or maybe they're just avoiding that completely. Some other smaller features that they added would include a bookmark feature to news, where you can bookmark a maximum of 300 news items. And then they also added 6 different icons for user profiles, of course, from Animal Crossing New Horizons. And then they also added a new section in user settings for the play activity settings. And I have to say, this update definitely out of left field. Sure. I mean, I like the customization, absolutely, but there are still some things that people are going to be asking for, like folders, but I would have never expected that Nintendo would just drop an update and it's like, oh yeah, you could change everything on your controller. Go ahead, just sure. I mean, I like it. It's great. It's really cool to see that. It will obviously help people in different situations, like I said, with accessibility, or maybe it's just easier for them if they want to move buttons around in games, and you do it at a system level with the ability to save 5 different configurations per controller is really, really neat. Now I'm curious what people will do with this, and what will be really cool is if we get to a point where people can share configurations online, so it's a very easy thing to download a profile and then just apply it to your controller rather than have to, I assume, look at a picture and just kind of go through, you know, like people will post pictures of their controller configurations and then you have to go through and change them manually. That would be another really cool thing, is if you could share those. But hey, you know what? 10.0.0 was way more than just system stability, so that's a plus. Next up, let's talk about Crysis. It's been a while. In fact, the Twitter handle for Crysis had not really posted, I think, in 4 years. It was like 2016. Until yesterday, they tweeted this out here. It just simply says receiving data. That exploded on Twitter to the point where it was trending. Yeah, we had Crysis trending yesterday in 2020 on Twitter. What an amazing thing. And then underneath of that, Xbox tweeted, "This is not a drill," all excited. And then everyone went crazy after that. So what's happening here? Well, now we're all just kind of trying to figure that out. There have been thoughts about, oh, maybe they're going to do an update to Crysis, right? Add ray tracing, support all kinds of things like that. Maybe they're doing a full-on remaster, remake of Crysis, although Crysis still looks pretty good, but we have seen all kinds of tech demos and stuff around the original Crysis, and some footage and gameplay and like images have come out that don't match Crysis at all. It's like it's from a different build completely, and there have even been rumors about the game itself being kind of shown off with these tech demos with the intent to do something with it, like actually remake it, rebuild it, do something there. And then of course we even had that April Fool's joke, quote unquote, that did something with Crysis once again, and that's where some of that footage even came from. So do you think they did that April Fool's joke to see if people would be interested, and then they saw how excited people got and they said, well, we can do something here? Or do you think it's been planned out for a little bit? Microsoft posting right below that is also very interesting to see. What if it's time for Crysis 4? That would be something, wouldn't it? We'll have to see about this, because now I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we get out of Crysis. It's been a bit. Crysis 3 still looks phenomenal, but like if they could do something with the original Crysis, like Crysis Warhead, or just a Crysis 4, I'm completely on board with that. But let me know what you would want to see out of Crysis down below in the comments, because this is fun. It's been a slower year, obviously, so far, but thinking about Crysis making a return of some kind this year would be really, really cool. Next up, let's talk about a new addition from the ESRB, just to let us all know that there are random items in a game. It's interesting. I guess the ESRB thought that this would solve problems somehow around these loot boxes and the situations with that. It really hasn't, from what I can tell. I don't know. It's a weird thing for them to make kind of a bigger deal out of, and it seemed like people were making fun of the situation. So here it is. This is their new addition that's going to, I guess, work to solve the miscommunication around gambling in games. You can see it there. They even circled it with the red circle that I think is from Paint, if I'm not mistaken. It says in-game purchases, and it says below that includes random items. So I guess it's going to have its own box that tries to make it as clear as possible. According to ESRB, parents are more frustrated or annoyed, I would say, with kids or their kids being able to buy things in a game with real money rather than gamble in-game with real money. I think it really just comes down to, did my son or daughter, whoever, take my card and buy stuff in the game, right? Did they spend more money than they weren't supposed to? That's all they really care about. I don't think this is going to do much of anything. It doesn't affect the age rating itself. So like if it's E for like basketball or football or anything like that, right? But then it just says includes random items or whatever below that. That doesn't say anything. But if it's like adult only because there's gambling, yeah, okay, that the parents will probably steer clear of that one. But that's why this isn't really that big of a deal. Also, there's still the question, and they haven't really been able to answer it that well, is what happens if these random items are added in like after through live services? What do you do then? Because we have seen this happen, right? They haven't had an answer for that either. Do you have it re-rated and have to change the box art? What do you do with the old ones? That, again, see, these are questions that ESRB is still having a hard time answering. In fact, it's taken this long just to add that little tiny bit to the box art. All right, I guess. This doesn't really solve much of anything that I can tell, but they made it seem like it was a big deal. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima. It's a game I'm looking forward to, but there has been some concern, especially with what we saw with Last of Us Part 2 getting delayed, if Ghost of Tsushima will indeed be coming out in June, as they've told us. We're kind of expecting some sort of delay, aren't we? Well, it looks like, at least still for now, Sucker Punch is saying that it is indeed coming out in just a couple of months. And that's exciting because I would like to play it. I was a big fan of Way of the Samurai. I'm getting some Way of Samurai mixed with Tenchu even now after hearing more information about this. And that came way of the official PlayStation magazine, where they talked a bit about the gameplay and even some of the world here. They said that there would be no waypoints, so you have to apparently use the knowledge of the world around you to get to places, and then you can decide how you would like to infiltrate bases, whether it's to just be a straight up samurai and just roll right in the front door, or if you want to be, according to them, a ghost and kind of sneak around. So I'm hearing Way the Samurai here, Tenchu over here mixed together. That could be neat, but they're still doubling down on that June release date. And I'll be honest, I'm still kind of expecting a delay. I just am, because of what we're seeing right now everywhere, but who knows? Maybe they can surprise me and get it out in June. I certainly hope so, because I want to play it sooner rather than later, but we'll see. And if it does get pushed to like, I don't know, August or September, and then they follow up a month or two later with Last of Us Part 2. That'll be a pretty good overall holiday for Sony, especially with the PS5 launching with some sort of launch title outside of Last of Us Part 2. But that was supposed to be like their first half of this year lineup. So it's just, everything seems to be getting pushed. That's why I'm still unsure of Ghost of Tsushima. But at least so far, they're saying, yes, June is when we're planning to launch it. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one's from Joseph saying, I'm convinced that even when EA releases a game on the Switch, they go out of their way to deter people from buying it so they can justify not supporting the system. Those are theories I've seen around why EA does what they do right now with the Switch. Burnout Paradise shouldn't be $50, right? Like, come on. Digital only release, $20, $30 the most, but I think $20 would be fine considering it's coming so late to the system. That would be much more fair. Instead, it's $50 from EA for this thing. I don't get it. And like, seriously, if they had taken Mass Effect Trilogy, moved it over to the Switch for $60, I would have been okay with that. I'd have been like, all right, yeah, I'll pick that up. I like the Mass Effect Trilogy, and for $60, that's a good price. But like, they've done some weird things, haven't they? They moved Mass Effect to the Wii U, charged the same amount for that as when the trilogy was coming out alongside it on other platforms, and EA just doesn't seem that interested in the Switch, but they probably are doing these things to appease shareholders, but they're also seemingly sabotaging a bit with the pricing so they can point to that and maybe tell the shareholders it's not worth our time to get into this. But if the Switch keeps climbing like it is, and in the demand that it is, I mean, eventually shareholders are just gonna be like, yo, when are the Sims at least coming over? Have you seen Animal Crossing on the Switch? We'll see with EA, but it's so strange. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is firmware 10.0.0, the system update for the Switch. What do you think about being able to just remap your controller completely, whether it's your Joy-Con or your Pro Controller? It's kind of neat. And then what about Crysis? What do you think is going to happen here? A remaster or like a full-on sequel? That'd be pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think about that and more down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.